Hello there, life group leaders. This is Chad and Becky. We're back for another round to talk about adoptive family, and this time we wanted to discuss maybe just a little bit some specific situations that could arise for you, things that have come up in the past with other groups and their experiences that we've learned from, and to help you navigate through them as well as you can. Maybe we could just talk a minute about this idea of whether we're primarily trying to meet needs or whether we're trying to provide fun, crazy, silly stuff for these families. Is it an either-or sort of a thing?
Absolutely not. I think that sometimes that's something that the life group has to sort of come up with on their own. Maybe as you have conversations with the family, either meet them or talk to them on the phone to sort of determine what their situation is, and then as a life group sort of say, hey, do we want to just bless the socks off of them with a bunch of fun things, or are there some pretty substantial needs that we really need to focus on that instead?
So maybe each group and each family that they're with is going to have different dynamics that are going to affect that a little bit. I know we had an experience a couple years ago where we had a family that requested a Wii. This was right after the Wii had come out, and we said, sure, let's do it. And we had one of the ladies in our group was really excited to lead the charge. She scheduled a sequence of different people standing in line, trading off at midnight and 2 a.m. and stuff, so we could get in line to get that Wii. And that was an amazing experience to really, as Becky said, just bless their socks off. They were blown away that we did that. But we don't necessarily assume that we're going to do that for everybody, and circumstances might dictate that the most appropriate thing we can do in one case might be to just get stuff that people really need to survive. And so we want to, again, be able to go both ways and maybe accomplish both. An issue that has arisen in the past is this dynamic of families maybe that are working the system, who are sort of going around to 40 different churches in the area and requesting gifts. And how are we dealing with that? Because we don't necessarily want to be a part of that sort of thing. We want to help the people that really are in need and don't have another place to receive help. So what do we do there?
Exactly, and that's a real important concern. Obviously, we want to be good stewards of our group's money, of our church's money, and also just to be able to sort of spread those blessings around to the community and not, have one family being super served and then another family, that simply we're not able to serve as a result of that. So we're working through some different agencies this year that we think will allow for a little bit better screening. Just have some people sort of looking over those lists to say, okay, these are people that are definitely in need. At this point, we don't show that they're also being served by the Salvation Army or by other groups within Center County. Obviously, we can't guarantee that. We don't know if people have the desire, the ability to do that. Sometimes that happens, and in the scheme of things, we're simply trying to be good stewards. We're doing our best to do that, but
sure.
Unfortunately, there are no guarantees there. But we are doing the best that we can to circumvent any issues in that area.
And it's certainly not the worst thing in the world if a family in need has two different groups that are helping
Exactly.
them. I mean, if that's the worst case scenario, we're okay.
Exactly.
I think God smiles upon that. But we do want to make sure that we don't lean heavily in the direction of certain families at the exclusion of others. And that's why partnering with other local organizations
Exactly.
really helps us to do at least our best that way. And we're excited for that this year. Another situation that's come up a couple of times in the past that we wanted to talk about briefly is just this idea of, for many of these families, the ongoing nature of their needs. When we provide gifts for them, when we bless them at Christmas time, it's not as if they're good then indefinitely. They're taken care of. Their needs have disappeared or evaporated. So how do we enter into that with, in some sense, an expectation of this being a one-time thing, being open to something that might come beyond that, but not committing ourselves indefinitely to meet their needs for the rest of eternity? What do we do?
That's an excellent question, and again, it's sort of one of those things that each life group has to determine within the course of their group and within the relationship that they develop with that family. We have certainly desired over the course of the years that through some of these relationships with matching people up through adoptive family, that some ongoing relationships would indeed develop, and that people could maybe possibly continue to serve these families through the course of the year. Maybe, in the spring, get them a box through Angel Food. Through this summer, maybe go to a baseball game together, however that looks. In the same token, we understand that some families just aren't interested in having that ongoing relationship. And so sometimes that in and of itself dictates how things go. In addition to that, we have had families that have, we've found that have some significant needs, and whether the life group itself has determined that, or sometimes the life group has been called from the family to say, hey, look, they're about to disconnect my phone, or my trash bill needs to be covered, that sort of thing. And sometimes the life group is able to, to make a determination that, hey, we would like to, as a group, meet that need. Other times, they've had to say, this just isn't something that we're able to do. And so we, as a life group ministry team, as well as Calvary as a whole, would like to at least try to help sort through that as those needs arise. And so as you maybe get requests for that or see those needs, we would encourage you to contact us, contact me, and we can help to resource that either through Calvary or through some of the other local organizations that help to provide for fuel help, food help, those sorts of things. But certainly we would like to, where possible and where appropriate, to continue to serve those families as well as we can.
Yeah. So maybe we can be thinking in terms of, this is the assignment when you sign on for adoptive family is to help specifically at Christmas time, and that's the extent of the commitment.
Exactly.
But we want to be open to whatever else might come. And I know our group this last year, we were helping a family. We got them a number of gifts, and then sometime shortly after Christmas, they got in touch with us and said we could use a bed frame. And we got together as a group and said, hey, one of the people in our group had a family member that's getting rid of a bed frame. We can do that. So that was no problem. We were happy to help them in addition to our original commitment. And that worked out well and blessed them an extra step. But we don't want any of our groups to think that you're now responsible to take care of this family's needs indefinitely and you're on your own. So another one of the things we want to talk about briefly is just how we're going to establish communication with this family. And I thought it would be important to talk through what does it look like to make yourself available via a phone number, an email address, or whatever else. How do we do that well? Who should that person, does that have to be the group leader necessarily? What would you say to that?
Oh, it certainly does not have to be the group leader. I think in the past we've found that different people within the group, somebody that feels comfortable sort of striking up that relationship takes the lead on that. We'll contact the family. We'll chat with them through maybe what their want and their need list is, as well as making those arrangements to deliver the gifts.
Whoever that person is that's going to make themselves the sort of liaison to the family or whatever just needs to be aware that we have no idea what to expect in terms of a responsiveness from a family. Some families will never contact us again. They're quiet, more withdrawn or whatever else. And other families that have significant needs that aren't afraid to express them, they may contact you again. They may contact you a number of times to say, hey, we could use some more help. So whoever sort of designates or is willing to be designated as the contact person for the group just needs to be aware of that reality and be willing to engage wherever that family might respond. Make sure that as we engage and communicate with these families that we do it with an appropriate sort of perspective of what it is we're trying to do. One of the things we don't want to do, we don't want to come at this with a sort of a serving with strings attached kind of a perspective. If these people feel these families feel like a project, if they feel like we are doing this so that they will serve us back in some way, then we're totally missing the point. We're here to bless and serve and love on these families regardless of whether or not they're Christians, regardless of whether or not they might necessarily align with how we think theologically or anything else. We're just here to serve them and love them. And that doesn't mean we have to be afraid of the fact that we are Christians and we're part of a church. In fact, your group can sort out how you might, if you want to, how you might want to communicate that to them. We've written letters to families in the past, invited them to come to Christmas Eve gatherings at Calvary, things of that sort. And that's all fine. We're not ashamed of being who we are. But we don't want to come at this with an agenda. And if they perceive an agenda, then we will not have served them as well as we would like. So just think through that, and as a group discuss that as to how it is that you want to communicate who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. And we trust that God will be faithful to that.